Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside HBCU Sports Lab. This is Dr. Cavil with Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. This is episode 126, but it's a special one for you boys. We're gonna take you a little bit inside the HBCU culture. We're gonna take it to the fraternities and sororities. We're gonna do that. It is my 30th anniversary. Can you believe it? I don't know if that's good or bad to say. 30 years in, spring 91, Eta Gamma chapter. Shout out to the 24 Sons of Raw. I don't want to name a couple of them because I would need to name all of them. And don't doubt me, I could do it. You know, we went, never mind. We're not supposed to say all that. But yeah. So with that being said, I also want to shout out to spring 2021. Eta Gamma is officially back on the yard with the new brothers coming up. I won't tell y'all the name of the line and those kind of things because it's a little special. You know, they going through the process. I don't want to ruin for them, but I can do that. You know, old head, we just mess up, throw stuff out there. So I'm going to put it out there. Spring 2021. Eta Gamma chapter is back. So shout out to Spring 21 bringing us back on the yard, and I know you're going to do it right. Got my stuff on Eta Gamma, Prairie A&M University. Shout out to the alphas of the SWAC, which now includes FAMU and Bethune-Cookman. Oh man, I might get some gear that has a little bit of all that beta up. Beta blue.
That's a great shirt idea right there.
Man, there's some bad boys out there. But I want to also show love to all the fraternities and sororities. I know we have a lot of people on here. Phi Beta Sigma, Omega Psi Phi, Kappa Alpha Psi. Shout out to everybody out there. Iota Phi Theta, and all the sororities, obviously. Alpha Kappa Alpha, Delta Sigma Theta, Zeta Phi Beta, Sigma Gamma Rho. So just want to give y'all all some love. Appreciate the way y'all come in the lab and represent. You know, and that's what we do when we talk about HBCUs, and we'll get into some of that with the Tennessee State head coach. We're going to really break it down to you like nobody else has done out there. We're going to spin it from different frameworks. We're going to ask you what an AD may think, what a president may think, what fans may think, business partners. We're going to look at all those angles, and I got the special folks out there. Then we're going to have some people drop through and give you some background on Dr. Cavil. If you all know me, generally speaking, you know, I just stick to the news. You know, if you come across me, I'm going to treat you like you're a brother or sister. Didn't have much respect to you all out there. But I'm going to let you get behind the curtain. I'm going to let these guys tell you a little story about myself. Usually I don't let folks say too much about me, but we'll do that. We'll even sneak some folks in that'll give you some stuff. Hopefully they don't get me in trouble, get me fired from my own show. But as that would say, that's what we're going to do today. So hopefully you all do enjoy this. Different spin, like I said, we're going to take you all around the culture in many different ways. Shout out. I see you out there, K. Johnson, 1908. Rusty Russ, 1930. We know what all it is. Jamie Walker sitting up, throwing up the Sigma Phi Betas. We got Anthony Weston, Omega Psi Phi. I see everybody repping out there. I like this. Sigmas. I see Stephen A. Miller. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, get it out.
Everybody repping.
30 years. 30 years. What's up, Mike? Don't start nothing. I know you give me 5 for real. Because you ain't been too late on the scene. I know, right?
I know.
Cool out.
Yeah, I know that well.
Yeah, we'll keep it clean. Welcome to episode 126 of Inside HBC Sports Lab radio show and podcast. The show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, i.e. all things HBCU sports from institutions large and small, from NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletics aesthetics, to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our KSWH 1230 AM studios from Texas Radio Hall of Famer, none other than the great Ralph Cooper, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. So to do it, check out your boy. I did it all up. Got the ring. Y'all see that? Yeah, the ring is the thing. So yeah, we're gonna do it big. Shout out to these folks putting in the love. I really appreciate it, man. I appreciate all the comments and everything. Man, big up, man. We got a lot of folks jumping in here. With that, we're gonna change this around. You know, usually we do a little news of the day, but I'm gonna ask you, besides the Tennessee State head football coach announcement, because we're gonna take a deeper dive. Besides that, what is anything that you want to talk about? Hot news or a tape that you want to analyze? I'm gonna go to you, Mike, first, since you the one who shined the light on me to some degree when I hit the yard. Boy, I remember, man.
How you shine that light?
Yeah. I came to Prairie View summer '89, ECI program, Engineering Concept Institute. Ended up joining a fraternity and sorority. Big ups to Epsilon Gamma Iota that was founded in 1984, 38 Minds of Success, in terms of what that looked like going into that organization. But I remember Mike coming in because the way they brought us in, we had counselors, right, that helped us get through the summer program as we were trying to get in college. So I remember Mike just running around and doing the spades, dominoes, and just talking. Man, so I was like, man, who is this guy? He's just so dynamic. Come to fall, man, I looked around, dude didn't have no hair. He walking straight, and then I seen these other guys all dressed in black, spacemen, and all this kind of stuff. And let me let y'all know, back then, you could do it. This was actually the last line. Fall 89 was the last line across Prairie View A&M's campus, because everybody knows they halted and went away with Hazen or whatever, you know, the year after that. But the last line that was actually able to do it at Prairie View happened to be spring '89, two black 12 strong, in terms of Mike Washington. And I was amazed. I was like, oh yeah. My dad was fraternity, and I was like, yeah, I'm ready. Grandpa was in the fraternity, so I'm multiple legacies like that. Great uncle, Big Ben, in 1925, plays at Wiley College, the first chapter here. So it would have been a problem if I didn't go away. But Mike made it. Mike did his thing and came on the hill. I was like, oh, that dude fly. Oh, that big time. Big sexy out there, old school, man. OC. Those guys, man, you were scared to death. I'm talking about freshmen now. Let's be real. You hit the yard, you see these guys, and they look bigger than life. Bigger than life. I did not understand. It's like, can I ever be like that? You know, and I like to think I had my own little legacy after a while. But I just remember you going to OC, and OC had this handshake, Mike. And you had hand and you didn't think you were going to get it back.
Yeah.
And so I had the nerve to go ask him, because I'm like, I need a letter. So I was like, I don't know what possessed me to go to one of those heads and ask for a letter. Little did I know OC had got in trouble. He couldn't write no letter. But OC liked the fact that I went to him. The big section is like, this dude crazy. So let me check out. He investigated whatever you want to do, but he ended up telling somebody that wrote my letter. And that's how I ultimately got in the fraternity in the call. And I get somebody to give a little backstory to that. Because most of the time, in terms of where I was coming from and how I get in, I wasn't supposed to get in. But because I took a chance, that's essentially the story. But with that, what other story do you want to tell in regards to the news that's out there? What do you want to discuss? I'll let you get some backstory later, Mike. I know you want to, but let's do some other stuff.
All right, I'll say the backstories for later. You gave the sanitized version, so congratulations again. I reached 50 and I'm 30 in 2019. My line did, so congratulations on that milestone. MEAC and packing, never lacking. Eta Gamma chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha. glad you're back. So news of the day. Since I'm gonna still stay with Dr. Cavil's, before he silences my mic, I'm gonna stay with his agenda. So my first news of the day. Roy, can you hit it up? Bring in Dr. Wade. Bring in Mr. Wade. Morris Brown is proud to announce it has regained its accreditation and recognition by the U.S. Department of Education after nearly 20 years in the making. This two-decade effort, listen to this, y'all, marks a historical and monumental milestone for this 140-year-old college. It's the first time, or really, its accreditation is revoked due to debt and financial mismanagement. There are a lot of stories behind that. And it barred students from applying from federal financial aid. But since regaining accreditation, Morris Brown is eligible to apply to and participate in financial programs. But more importantly, bring back the band. Where's Mr. Wade at?
No
Never
doubt.
want to see a band.
In all seriousness, that's big news. And I'm going to go to Allen because the world is so small. This weekend, we met alumni from Morris Brown that happened to be fraternity. It's out of the Dallas area. And man, we had a good time just living it, talking about Atlanta and stuff like that. And you share a little bit about that, brother Allen. He's coming in and he's going to tell you some other stories in a minute. So he's joining us to kind of rib me a little bit. So I thought I'd let him jump in here as he's part of the 1876 Force and Coach. Go ahead, Allen.
All right, let me first start off by saying happy Alphaversary. This is your 30th, and man, it seemed like just yesterday, bro. I remember going to the interest meeting with you. That was back when Doc had dreads at the time.
Oh man, I was about to get that story, man.
See, Doc had dreads.
Like, I'm gonna let you do the one how I got my line there.
Yeah, Doc had dreads. He had the little African medallion, back in the day in the late 80s, we had the little African medallions. He had his dashiki, and he even walked around with a wooden staff, man. So, yeah. So
I forgot that.
I remember it like it was yesterday, bro. But congratulations on making 30. We got a chance this weekend to witness a new line of brothers come into the house. And like you said, we did have a brother from the IOTA chapter seated at Morris Brown University at the time. And he's actually running for our regional vice president for the Southern District. So we had a chance to kick it. And, I was reminiscing back thinking, I came through in 1992. And if some brothers from 1962 had showed up at my crossing, man, I would have been looking around like, dog, y'all got to give me some of this wisdom or something. But, I was just reminded that we are at that age now to these kids.
Yep.
We are real old heads. So, as they were reading about the history and learning the lineage of Eta Gamma, they all knew our names already. So when we said their names, you could see the eyes light up like, wait, that's you? Yeah, bro. So that was a real good time. And I was glad that we were able to partake in that. And, that was one of the greatest days of my life, man, because I got to bring in both of my sons into the house and, Dr. Cavil's godson. So he was there. So we both got a chance to participate in that. And that's something I will never, ever forget the rest of my days.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That was crazy. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to share a little bit about this, because it is such a special moment. And oftentimes we blast through the world doing what we do, trying to take care of everybody. And we don't necessarily share these moments. So this is my opportunity to open this up and you all getting to see a little more inside of Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. Way back, 30 years back, you get to hear about the cane and the dreads. Oh, wow. I forgot.
Don't make me dig out some pictures.
I know. I know. That's why I called you late, to make sure, because I know you. They might end up finding up on Facebook, but luckily you don't have an account. That's good. Charles, man, jump in. We met in a different lifetime, but it seems like a lifetime in regards to that. And you've been down like 4 flat tires ever since then, and almost as much as a line brother, more than a frat brother, sincerely. Everything that you brought to the table and just opening up the brotherhood that we talk about, but you showed it in every part, specifically from another chapter. Bringing me down to that chapter, bringing brothers to us when we go to Atlanta. And it was just like we were two chapters that knew each other and came through the same house in terms of chapter framework. But you're welcome to share some thoughts on the Morehouse Brown component of them coming back with accreditation, and then you can sneak in the story as well.
Oh, no doubt. Really excited about Morris Brown in terms of them getting their accreditation in terms and sort of quote unquote coming back into the fold of that HBCU community. You know, Dr. Cavil, I had an opportunity I would listen to you on the radio on my drive home from work, and I didn't know who you were. And I made it a point to know who was this individual talking about HBCU sports, because in this realm of sports talk, we don't get a lot of HBCU sports talk. And Ralph Cooper provided a platform for yourself to talk about your poll. And you had a poll that I was like, now this makes sense. And I want to know who this individual is. You know, I love HBCU sports. And I literally looked you up, found you at Texas Southern, didn't know you were in Houston. So I was just excited that you were in Houston. And at some point I said, I have to be a part of this show talking about HBCU sports. And when I just randomly found you on Texas Southern's phone directory, and just out of a bah humbug called and was thinking I'd leave a voicemail. And lo and behold, you picked up. And I had an opportunity to talk to you, just tell you, you know, I thought I could contribute a little something to the show. And to my surprise, you told me to stop by. So on my way home from work, I'm like, and it was pouring rain. I was like, you know what, let me stop by and, you know, see who this individual is and show him what I can, you know, can bring to the table. And I walked in and I saw the 8 sitting on your counter there, and I said, oh boy, I got a bro. I said, all right. So it was all good from there, and I had an opportunity to talk to you about some of the stuff that I was excited about with HBCU sports and thought I could contribute. And all I really wanted to do was just contribute stats and background information. And you invited me to come to the show, not just come to the show, but come on the show. So I'm very grateful that you opened up the house, so to speak, to allow me in and to give me an opportunity to talk, you know, something that is a passion of mine. And not just from HBCU sports, but also with regards to opening up, you know, Ada Gamilton. You know, I come from Delta Phi chapter of Jackson State University, and no doubt, shout out to the brothers back at Jackson State Delta Phi, but Ada Gamma, you guys really opened up the RV, opened up everything, you know, with regards to myself coming in, very appreciative of that and showing me another side, you know, of Alpha as well. So definitely very appreciative of all that, and our friendship beyond the fraternity, our friendship beyond, you know, talking HBCU sports, just really talking about life and involving me and getting me into this doctoral program that keeps me up at 4 o'clock at night. So thank you for that too. So.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Let me go back to Mike. I know Mike is waiting. I'm gonna let him go ahead. Tell your story about my name, my line name. Yeah.
No, I'm gonna save the line name since you made me wait. I'm gonna tell you that. So I went back and I was an ECI counselor in '89, and ECI was the Engineering Concepts Institute. And like Alan said, you know, I met this young man and he looked totally different than what he looked like before. Like what you see now. You saw a skinny guy with dreadlocks with an African hanging around his neck and talking about soccer. I was like, who is this? So I was like, but the more and more we talked, we became closer. And, you know, you start picking those, bro. That's a future bruh. So, and we have been pretty much friends ever since then. So that's the clean, sanitized version of it. Of course, there was some libations shared. There was some stuff talked over a domino's table, but that's how we met back in 1989. So yeah, wouldn't trade it for the moment. Later, not long after that, met Al. had a chance to be the assistant dean of his line in 1992. Really, I was a dean, but I'm just the semantics. So 2 friendships, brotherhoods that have been forged a lifetime, and CB has come in. It's basically like I've known you since then. I kind of treat you like I've known you since the yard, because that's just how the relationship has blossomed. So I'm giving you clean, sanitized. I'll save the line name, Yada.
With that, I'm gonna go ahead and put it out there since everybody. My line name was Bean Pie. Alan kind of told about it because I came in there with the staff and the dreads and dashiki head like this. Everybody else supposed to be wearing a tie. I wear both. So they gave me the Muslim name, Bean Pie. That's all there. I should have thought about that.
No, that wasn't the only reason. He was talking pro-black stuff, and he came in with a bow tie, and Yada was like power to the people, and then he came into me with that bow tie, and I remember saying, "There's only one name that's gonna be fitting for him: Bean Pie."
Wow.
I should have known it was Mike. Put all that together. Let's get back into it for everybody out there. The big news of the day, obviously for most people out there, is Coach Eddie George was officially named. It seems probably like the worst kept secret out there of the Tennessee State Tigers. And for all those Jackson State fans out there, I'm sure y'all get a kick out of this, because a lot of people saying Tennessee State is copying your Jackson State model, and you know how it goes with that rival. So the Southern Heritage Classic, if nothing else, in terms of all the media around, should be significantly big. But let's get in, and Al, I want you to stay in here and join on this talk, and we'll just circle it around with everybody in terms of the lab as we just chop it up in a different way. He was named officially as the coach today. Let's look at it first from just the athletic director perspective. When we come from the athletic director's perspective, you know, what would you think about? Why would you, as an athletic director, make this move? We found out early in terms of this interview that he had on First Take, and you may or may not have heard, that he talked about that the call came about 6 months ago. And at that time, he hadn't really seriously thought about coaching. He was enamored that he thought about it, but it really wasn't something that he thought about. Personally, one thing that I like about is an athletic director that is aggressive. Whether I really agree with the move, you'll get a chance to like that. But the fact that you had an athletic director that didn't go the traditional route in terms of just naming a committee, bringing resumes in, but decided that he had a vision. We still hadn't heard the vision, but it seems like personally, he has a vision in terms of where he wants to go with the program. And he wanted to go get a coach that fit into the vision. Let me go with you first, Alan, in regards to what are your thoughts? What does this look like coming from an athletic director, VP of athletics? Why make this hire?
Well, when you've got a new athletic director that has got to put his stamp on this program, he basically has about a 3-year window to put his stamp on this program, which will determine whether he's going to be there long-term or not. So making a move like this, putting Eddie George in place may not make a lot of sense to those football, so quote unquote purists who say, well, Eddie George hasn't coached before. Well, you know, he hasn't made his bones and come up through the ranks like everybody else. No, this is a different time. You got to think about recruiting. When you look at this generation and just look at all of the recruiting that Deion Sanders was able to do. Yeah, he had some coaching pedigree, but that was at the high school and Pop Warner level. So when you look at being able to recruit this generation, those kids are looking at the relationships that Eddie George and Jeff Fisher may be able to leverage to get them a look. As a head coach, he doesn't have to be the X's and O's man. He's the leader. He's the figurehead. He hires his assistant coaches who are really going to be the ones who are developing the game plans and all that. He is a sideline and locker room manager. And when you bring a guy like Eddie George, who has all of that connection to the Nashville area, I'm going to give this a thumbs up from my perspective. I think it's a good move. I like to see a new athletic director not take that traditional route and just go for the next guy from the mid-major that can come in and work on compliance issues and all this and that. He has just elevated the profile of that program, and you, at least for a couple seasons, will have the fan base re-engaged, period.
Great point. But you tend to have the fan base engaged with any coach, but I do think that having a big name coach may bring more on ball and keep them on there a little longer. I'm gonna go to you, Mike. Same thing in regards to the athletic director, if you would. What would be some concerns that you would weigh as you're making this decision?
Obviously, there's going to be financial concerns. There's going to be concerns from some of the others in the league. There's going to be concerns from those within Tennessee State. You got to look at where Tennessee State is. They're kind of at a crossroads. They've been in the OVC for several years. They haven't performed really well in the OVC. I have a new athletic director, as Alan Foote, who took the reins, 2020. So there is, in corporate world, there needs to be a step change in this organization. And if I'm the athletic director, I'm looking at it. I'm willing to look at whatever risk bringing someone who does not have the traditional pedigree, maybe in the names of lifting up this program to that next level, garnering more, more conversation, number one, more attention, more fanfare, re-engaging, because at a minimum, folks are going to come in and say, okay, let's see what this is about. Let's see what he can do. And yes, he does not have the traditional pedigree, but what's wrong with the CEO approach? If you set it up right, establish it well in the organization. If you have the right coaching staff to support him, some would say Nick Saban has that model. If you have the right coaching staff to support him, they can be very successful and increase their exposure and really kind of change the perspective that you have with Tennessee State. And no other school, HBCU, needs it more than Tennessee State, because again, they have been in a crossroad. And if I'm an AD, I'm looking at all of these factors, and I'm whatever risk fans may say, well, he hadn't coached, like you said, you're going to have those diehards that say, well, he ain't coached, he ain't put his time in, he ain't served in the trenches. Maybe there's time out for that. Maybe Tennessee State's a little bit different in this case. And if I'm an AD, I'm looking at that and I'm seeking to take a little bit of advantage of that.
Tennessee State Beta Omicron up there in that part. They roll a little deep, and I'm sure between the Classic and Southern Heritage, I'm sure the brothers of Jackson State and Tennessee State have kind of run into each other and had some great conversations.
Hey,
So
this time last year, Doc, who would have thought that you would have Deion Sanders versus Eddie George in a Classic in 2021? You couldn't have told me.
Nobody in 2020, as much as we were going through COVID-19, no way we'd have thought this happened. But it's here now. But I'm going to ask Brother Bishop, Professor Bishop, he's been in the fire. He's had a chance to interview. He's been all through the Jackson State program. So working obviously with Vice President of Intercollegiate Athletics, Ashley Robinson. But I want you to go back to your class time as you're in the master's program now in the doctoral program at Texas Southern University with the concentration in sports education, if you would. First one of any HBCU to have that. I want you to put on your AD, VP of Athletics hat on. Think about in terms of what you've experienced thus far. So tell me, as I asked them, what are your thoughts in the move? What are some benefits based on your experience of what you've seen now of how it has affected Jackson State and how it may affect Tennessee State? But then I want you to double down, and I want you, based on what you know about the Southern Heritage Classic, that rival, particularly from a football perspective, coaches leaving Jackson State, going to Tennessee State, goes into that rivalry a little bit, that people, that follow HBCUs, particularly SWAC or Tennessee State, knows about that. does a athletic director, such as Allen, as he's done over there, does he double down and also look at now coming to the SWAC? Because some people are asking that question. Was out there early, for whatever reason, he had just got on, didn't seem to take it as seriously as it could have been. But now they seeing what happened in Jackson State, the bold moves. Do they make this move to stay in the OVC?
I think Alan touched on something in terms of engagement of the fan base. Is the Tennessee State fan base engaged in the OVC? I think you have a percentage of them that's okay with playing in OVC. But now that you have all this going on over here in the SWAC, FAMU, Bethune-Cookman, Dion, the OVC at this point, you know, I don't want to disparage it, but it's a lot more going on over here with people that look like you. That's just, you know, period,
Yep.
point blank. We talk about the risk reward of Eddie George. The risk part, at the end of the day, Tennessee State is still going to be Big John Merritt. It's still going to be Claude Humphrey. It's still going to be the Lord's Prayer. All these legendary figures within Tennessee State, from the day Eddie George comes in, even when the day he leaves, they are still going to have that legacy. So that part is not a risk to me. Mike touched on it. They have not been doing very well within the OVC. So to me, the arrow only points upward when you bring in somebody who can bring in resources, added resources, somebody who brings that name recognition, especially with regards to recruiting and things of that nature. And I tell you what, the Southern Heritage Classic now takes on a whole different demeanor.
Yeah, it really does.
For Jackson State fans, I can tell you the games that are barometer games for Jackson State: Tennessee State, Southern, Grambling, and at the end of the year, you have Alcorn. But if you don't get any of those 3 out of those 4, you're in trouble. Those are your barometer games. Forget whatever Cornell Main was talking about. They're not arriving. Okay, Alabama State down here, they're not arriving. Sorry. Tennessee State. It is what it is. Tennessee
He
State
said bring
Alcorn. But you need to go 3 out of 4. So, you know, now, Alan, like you mentioned, you have Beyond Primetime Standards and Eddie George. This is going to be phenomenal for the Southern Heritage Classic. To see if the Southern Heritage Classic continues to stay in Memphis, because I can just imagine, my gosh, having this home and home going to Nashville and Jackson. That would be really interesting. I'm real curious though, because I want to say this, my Tennessee State fans who, you know, came out of the woodworks when the
game setting, obviously, you know, in the 90s, it was rough. So actually being up at halftime, you could feel the vibe, you know, the cheer bumps, the energy through the stadium, you know, just to walking back on that field. So at that moment, we kept grinding it out. But as far as meeting you after the game and just seeing the love and other alumni, you know, just having that monkey off your shoulder was great. It was a great experience. I've never forgot it. But we'll keep some of the details of the tailgating to another setting. But it was a beautiful thing.
I appreciate it. With that, let me ask you this before I let some folks ask you a little bit more about your experience there, for those that, you know, see Prairie View, you know, old school in a lot of ways, right after the 90s, and then what it is now. What are your thoughts when you go back and see the new stadium and talk to the players, where the program is? You were able to kind of set that new foundation after we literally had some of our lowest points. You set the stage for that upward trajectory. What are your thoughts when you see everything now?
Well, first and foremost, I gotta say I'm actually proud to be a part of the time that I was in there in '98. We came to nothing. We had aluminum stands. We had a sweat box for a weight room. You know, our weights were actually sweating more than us because we didn't have any type of ventilation out there. We were grinding it out, running the loop and training. And the first thing coming from a high school program that had a little success that I told the guys was the only way we'll change this program around is if we come to summer school and actually train during the summer. We got into some 7-on-7 tournaments, and then that's when the light actually starts coming our way. But when I go back and see everything that they have now, it's just, it's hard to keep the tears back, because it feels like the sacrifices that we made it in that 98 season paid off.
No doubt about it. I'm so proud of you about what you did then, what you're doing now. Family man, own business, entrepreneur, taking care of a lot of things. And you know me, anything you need, I'm here to support. So before I let them, if they want to ask a question, tell everybody about your business and how they can contact you if they need to get some of the things that you do taken care
of. Business-wise, my background is architecture. Obviously, football is my heart. I coached for 12 years before going into my field. So when you guys are talking HBCU and talking coaching, I kind of still have that urge to step out there. So I'm glad y'all keeping some type of platform like this going on. But the business that I own is a window treatment company. I do all the motorized shades, blinds, shutters, all your interior window coverings. You can follow us at Deluxe Window Treatments. On Instagram, we have the website, same, deluxewindowtreatments.com, or, just reach out and I'll have Kenyatta actually post my information. But yeah, we do. If you got any residential or commercial spaces and you need the coverings done, that's what we do.
No doubt about it. I appreciate you coming on, sharing some of that insight for those, as we said, taking them back and just letting them know my path and how all this came to fruition, and you show up and showed out. Before I let you go, let me see if anybody wants to jump in and ask a question before I let you go, because I know you have a very busy schedule.
Yeah, I will. Deshun, how you doing? Frat. I want to take you back to 1998, and that win against Langston. Okay, that was the first win. Now, we went to Prairie View in an era where we didn't win anything. The band won, and we went to see the band. But when you guys first beat Langston, 1998, and we're on ESPN, it was. I know for the students, the folks within the ROTs, I think every auxiliary group on campus had a minute party. Tell me what it felt like, and do you still reminisce on that? Because we were notorious for having the longest losing streak in NCAA history until you guys came and broke that spell, so to speak. Do you still reminisce, and tell me what feelings still run through?
Well, the first thing I think of is the campus actually shutting down, pretty much professors and from the students, from the alumni. You got unknown faces on campus. It was just amazing just to come to a shutdown, toilet paper, newspaper, everything was all over the yard. Goalposts is knocked down. It's just like, are we ever going to get back to normal? But it was an amazing feeling. I was a freshman that year. So I was actually, just eyes wide open, trying to look up to some of the older guys. It was a bad virus in the program at the time, but we had enough courage to get through. And from the years that move on, it's just been going uphill.
Certainly. Again, I know you got to get back to it, your family and things. I appreciate you coming in and sharing really the sports culture and letting people on some insights that they just never would have gotten anywhere else, and the connection it plays with the fraternity side of this. Again, as I said, extremely excited about you, really pleased of what you did in terms of get us back now, because now the expectations are totally different in terms of just winning the game. Now it's about winning rings, as they say on 876 Sports and Culture. It's about winning championships, multiple championships, facilities, and you help with the rest of your teammates in terms of building that, and in terms of getting it done. And then your line brother that played baseball, in terms of what that trajectory took off to be too. So proud of all of y'all. Continue the great work you're doing, and we'll catch up and we'll get a chance to make sure we get your business stuff out there as well. So thanks. Brother Baker.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. And you know, as far as the frats, you know, I was the only alpha man in the locker room, so I had a great opportunity to set the pace and lead the team like we do as alpha men. So that was also great. And then from when I left, we had 4 or 5 brothers follow that path. So the black and gold still shining, and I love all you boys. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
Right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, bro.
All right. All right.
And
You know,
so,
Dr. Cavil,
go ahead.
while we have this quick pause, I wanted to make mention, because we have this tremendous platform, that this is April is National Minority Health Month, and all of us is a national institute research program, and it is seeking 1 million more people from underrepresented populations across the U.S. to help advance research that can benefit our minority population. So research consists of real-time surveys, and Roy is going to put that link here down in the chat. But research consists of real-time surveys and are conducted about our lifestyle, our diverse family dynamics, our genetics, and our overall health during COVID-19. So I wanted to mention that one of our the people who follows us, Dr. Alicia Russey, she has been very active with this since 2018, and I wanted to definitely mention Dr. Alicia Russey, who's also a member of Delta Sigma Theta, but she's been actively enrolled in all of us research programs since 2018. And for more information, go to www.joinallofus.org. She has completed COVID-19 surveys pertaining to her own socio, emotional, and physical well-being during this pandemic. So if you have an opportunity to take time to go to that website and take the survey. So we have this tremendous platform, and definitely wanted to bring that out there in regards to Research Matters.
Oh, great point. Great point. I'm glad that you're able to get that in. That's so important. But before we get back into it, you were shouting out some of the sororities. As we talked about the fraternity, I want to make sure we do that. Kim, Mike's better half, shout out with the Beta, Delta Sigma Theta, my wife, Delta Sigma Theta, and then Alan Williams, wife, Delta Sigma Theta. Make sure we get those deltas in regards to her also finishing her doctorate. Kudos in terms of the doctorate in nursing. Big time announcement in terms of that. And then certainly with Charles Bishop and his wife, Alpha Kappa Alpha. So we're represented in terms of making sure we share it. So I would be remiss if I didn't get that information out to show just how deep this goes in terms of how we believe about the HBCU culture. All of our wives went to HBCUs in regards to that, whether it was on the campus, meeting them then at Prairie View A&M University, whether it was Russ, whether it's Xavier, or Alabama A&M. When we talk about Alabama A&M and Manor, I do think it was interesting that he talked about Tennessee State in that matchup when we talk about whether coming to the SWAC is an option. He talked about it, said he called up there. So Eddie George, you get some of this stuff.
I'm get some. I'm ready. I ain't going nowhere.
Shout out to Farad, the twins up there, and the other good brothers of Delta Gamma, treated us real. Mario Thomas, Jackson State University, in terms of those brothers. So when I talk about the fraternities and brotherhood, I'm not just talking about at Prairie View. I'm not just talking about the members of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, but this goes deep across the board in terms of those in relationship with HBCU sports. And I'm really supportive of that. For example, our producers, a member of Phi Beta Sigma. Some of our tailgate partners, a member of Phi Beta Sigma. In terms of that, one of the founding members of the show, Ryan McGinty, is a member of Phi Beta Sigma. So
my partner on the pregame show, he's a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. Shout out to Chris Neely. So.
Yeah, I got to make sure I give Chris Neely shout out. That shot that he did, that you all do, just talking about, let me put it in the positive. In terms of the show, if you're not catching the pregame show, I know unless you're watching your own team getting prepared to play or they're on, in terms of where we need to go with the industry, what you see we're doing here with Black College Sports Network, what Charles and Neely are doing in terms of the pregame, that's the next step.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, in terms of the business side of it, we have to do. They came up right before pregame. They went in the studio and they did a shot. One of the best shots I've seen outside, even compared to some of you see at the professional level. in terms of setting the scene for the game with the kickoff, where he was like on the roof shooting into the end zone. I was like, ooh, I had to snap the phone and take a picture of it. So kudos to y'all, what you're doing. That's what we're talking about. Kudos to Roy in terms of being able to put that together and allowing y'all to have the freedom to stretch his expertise in terms of what that looks like. That's a lot of good. So I hope people appreciate that, because it's not going to stop right there. We're talking about moving beyond that and past that. You're just seeing the emphasis in the components of that. As we kind of close up on this segment and get ready to go, let me jump in here and give you the poll ranking updates. And since I have y'all three here, let's get into that a little bit. As not much really changed this week in terms of maybe some point differential, but it'll set it up for Thursday as we talk about this next week of games. We really can set things. In some ways, we can find out who is playing in the SWAC championship game essentially based on this week. Some things may have to play out. It could get a little tricky.
It could get a little gray in a few areas.
In terms of what that goes on. And then you have matchups, and we'll get in those more Thursday in terms of who can upset the apple cart. Prairie View has a chance to still make a statement, although they can't play for the championship game. People forget they're undefeated because they've been on such a hiatus. Southern is a game back looking at it in terms of what's going on there. Obviously, a lot of things are going on between Alabama A&M and Alabama State, Magic City Classic. That's going back to the 90s when that game, in a lot of ways, determines the Eastern Division, essentially. And then Pine Bluff. Pine Bluff wants to make their statement and show where I have them in the poll is where they should be. Receiving votes this week, again, Jackson State 4-3. Delaware State Hornets 2-2. Alabama State Hornets are 3-2, 42, 56, 70 in terms of the point respectively. Nobody drops out of the polls this week, but top five, South Carolina State 2-1, remain at number 5, 74 points. They lose the first place vote. Prairie View remains at number 4. The Prairie View A&M Panthers 2-0, one first place vote. They finally get back in action. We'll get to see, do they get to jump up? Do they get to make a major statement? Or are they going to fall out with the loss in terms of seeing what other folks are, at least fall down one spot? At number 3, you have Southern Jaguars, 4-1, 3-1, 3 first place votes, 96 points. So they hold and lose a vote. They drop a spot. A lot of that is just because they didn't play. Alabama A&M played big, had a big win. They go to 3-0 overall, 2-0 in the conference race, 3 spots, and set up what is to be in the Magic City Classic with 97 points. So they move up a spot for number 3. Number 1 remains Arkansas Pine Bluff Golden Lions. I'm sure Alan will appreciate that 5 first place votes. He's been talking about that for a couple of weeks now. And now it really gets interesting because now you have a 1 versus 4 matchup that really could make the West real interesting in multiple different ways this weekend. So I'm sure you're going to be tuned in for that. Starting with you, Alan, since you talked about that, what are your thoughts about the poll ranking?
I agree with the poll ranking this week. I'm 100% in agreement. UAPB, like we said, is the story of the spring season so far. Even a bigger story than anything that's happening over in Jackson. So what I say right now is that we'll see what happens when Prairie View shows up. Are they for real or are they pretend?
Yeah. Mike, jump in there. What's your thoughts?
I somewhat agree with the poll, but man, that Alabama A&M, that extra data point, I said I needed an extra data point. That Moore, Allaire, Abrium, that receiving core of Alabama A&M are 1, 2, and 3 in the SWAC and have played less games. That's gonna. I agree with UAPB being because Skylar Perry, quarterback, is playing lights out. They are who we thought they are. But man, watch out for Alabama A&M. And I agree, Prairie View, put up or shut up. And what you gonna do?
No doubt about it. Charles, what are your thoughts on the poll ranking?
No doubt, UAPB. Until beaten, they have shown the most here in the spring. Alabama A&M's offense is everything is advertised. Even after having X number of games canceled by COVID, they picked up right where they left off. They showed what they could do. Abdul Ibrahim, Zabrian Moore, Brian Jenkins, all of those guys, they are worthy of all the accolades they get. Quill Glass is definitely an NFL prospect.
Yes, he is.
You know, they showed who they are. They really showed who they are, and I'm very proud of what they were able to get accomplished even against Jackson State. So kudos to Coach Manor and Alabama A&M.
No doubt about it. That'll do it for us today. Roy, if you could put up the spring 1991 sign while Charles has his last comment. Go ahead. Make sure you get it out there, Charles.
I see in the chat my brother from another mother, Matthew Bradford, another Alpha man. He's running for Southern Regional Vice President. Shout out, bro. All the success to you. We came in freshman year at Jackson State, so I definitely want to shout out to Matt Bradford.
Oh, nice. Much love with that. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and Alan Williams. I hope you enjoyed the unique framework of the show today. I wanted to share some love. I want to say happy Alpha anniversary to spring 1991, the 24 Sons of Raw. All my LBs out there, appreciate the love and all those. Thanks for Deshaun Baker coming in and giving us some love in terms of quarterback, former quarterback of Prairie A&M University, telling us about the spotlight about the 90s in terms of what went down there. Again, shout out to Brother Alan Williams, who go way back. Both of these two gentlemen were my co-grooms and best men in my wedding, to let you know some insights in terms of what that looks like. Didn't want to split it up. I wanted both of them there, and we made it work. It looks like, and so that was big time. I really appreciate all the love for all the time. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday, 6 o'clock. We look forward to the next week as we will discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. It's DrKenyattacavil. That's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Facebook. Inside the Sports Lab. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Alan.
Class.
Oh, man. Lecture.
I can't get right back.
I'm going to bring the class.
Mike pulled out the wood.
Class. Did you say
I said class. Course. My bad. I'll get in the cut.
Hey, let's try again. Alan. Alan, go again. Alan.
Class. You got me messed up now, man. Course.
Mike.
Lecture.
Dismiss.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.